So I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is that today, the last day of week 2, it's going to be quick and easy and satisfying. So there's going to be fun stuff right away. The bad news is there's going to be a really hard challenge at the end of it. It's going to be hard, but really big and juicy and good. So I do hope that you will take on the challenge that's coming up. But first, let's just talk about what we're going to do today. We're going to take our deep research agent that we built last time in a notebook, and we're going to turn it into proper Python code in modules. Yes, with a user interface featuring Gradio. Let's go and do that right now. And so here we are in Cursor, and we're going into the OpenAI folder, but now we're going into another folder, into the deep research folder that is beneath it. And you will see that there are some Python modules. You'll be happy to see, because I know you like Python modules. And I'm going to just talk you through them. And you're, I hope, going to be pleasantly surprised how easy it is, and also how natural it is to move from a notebook world into proper modules. And again, one more sales pitch is why I like to work experimentally first in a notebook and then turn it into modules as you've built out your prompts, as you've experimented and refined your agent architecture. So what we've got in here are some agent classes, some agent modules with a single agent class, and then a manager that packages it all together. And then finally, deep research is the user interface, which is a very simple user interface. So let's start with the classes that represent the agents, and it's going to be really simple. We will start with the planner agent, which is exactly where we started when we were in the notebook. The planner agent, we've got this how many searches. I've got it set to 20 now, but I'll turn it back to 3 before I check this in so that no one racks up a big bill if you use it. And you'll recognize the same old instructions and the same pedantic objects for a web search item and a web search plan, which is the list of web search items in the single field searches. And here is our planner agent that takes our instructions and it uses the web search plan. There we go. Okay, next up, the search agent. And I need to make one little change to this guy. So this is the search agent. The instructions you'll see here, your research assistant, and it's got this format. You'll remember that we stole that format from OpenAI's documentation, a very nice set of instructions right there. Don't know if you spot the little change I have to make, but the tools in here, I need to add in that parameter to make it nice and cheap. So let's go and do that together. If we go to this lab, if we look at what that parameter was, that parameter was actually near the top, I think. We did it at the very beginning. There we go. It is that the search context size is low. Let's go and put that in there right now so that no one spends unexpected amounts. There we have it. Done. Okay, so that is the search agent class in the search agent module. And now we've got a couple more, 2 more agents to talk about. The writer agent, again, and you know, the benefits certainly of having these in Python modules, it looks very crisp and simple. You can see exactly what's going on. We've got our instructions. We've got the pedantic report data that has a short summary, a markdown report, and follow-up questions. And then our writer agent, which is the agent that will take all of the information from all of the searches and turn it into a report data object. And the final agent, if you remember, is of course the email agent. Here it is. This is stuff that you will recognize. This is just the same thing that is going to send the email. You must remember, please, to change this to be your verified sender here. Put your verified sender here, and then put some other email here. Put your recipient here. Not me. I think I might change this before I check it in, because otherwise someone's going to forget, or many people will forget, and I'll be overloaded with spam email. All right, so this is the tool. And actually, it's good to have a comment in here, because that will send an email with the given subject and HTML body. Very nice. Okay, so that is our email agent, and that is all 4 of our agents. What's coming next is Research Manager. Okay, so Research Manager is a class, and this contains those short functions that we had last time with a little bit, a twist, spiced it up. So first of all, there is a single method here, run, or it's a coroutine if you want to be pedantic with me. This coroutine run, an async def run. And this is just the same as the code that I had before. We've got a little trick here to generate a trace ID so that we can print where to go to look at the precise trace that we're looking at here. Now, you may wonder why we've got all of this yielding going on. We're treating this as a generator that is going to yield various bits of text along the way. So that is going to become clear in a bit, but just take a look at what's going on here. I print some updates and I also yield those updates, and I end by yielding the full markdown report. Now, hopefully you've done your intermediate. Either you already know all about generators, or if you don't, then you've taken a look at the guide that explains generators so that there's no surprise. Okay, and then I've just got each of these functions: plan searches, perform searches, search, and write report, and send email. These are the 5 functions that are exactly the same as the 5 functions we talked through before, except a little bit beefed up. They've got more type hints put in, as one should do for proper checked in Python modules. And there's a bit more exception handling. And this is a little bit fancier to handle the being able to print a status update while it's going through the different searches. But otherwise, it is much the same. So it's just a bit tidied up, which is the kind of practice you should do when you move from the notebook environment, when you're being more experimental, into something that's more well-baked code. But it's the same functionality. And that finally brings us to deepresearch.py. Here we are. This is our Gradio app. This is where the magic happens. So Gradio, which we import here, this is the package which you may know I love, which lets data scientists build great UIs without needing to know anything about front end. And I'm going to give you just some insights into how this works without. I'm not giving you a full Gradio lesson here, and Gradio has great docs. It's really easy to read up at it and build your own. But just very briefly, this code here is where the user interface is defined. And we're used to using things like gr.chat interface, which is the super canned, simple one where you can create an interface out of nothing. If you want to actually build your own user interface from scratch, then you have to use a slightly more detailed version when you do with gr.blocks as, and then something like UI, and then you put your code in there, and then you say UI.launch at the end. And that's the way to do it. That will then build your user interface. So that is exactly what we've got here. We say with gr.blocks, and then you can pass in a theme if you want to have a different theme to the standard theme, and you can find the different colors that you can have in here. And then you simply put down the fields that you want. So we're going to start with a heading. gr.markdown gives us a heading, and we want to have the word deep research as a big heading. Then we want a text box that says, what topic would you like to research? And we're associating that text box with a Gradio field called query. So this is a field. It might be a bit clearer if we call this query text box. Let's say that query text box. And then here, the next field we're going to put on a user interface is called run button. It's a gr.button. It says run on it, and it's a primary button. So it'll be nice and blue because blue is the sky blue is the color we've chosen. And then the next one is going to be report, which is going to be our actual report text. It's a markdown, and its label is report. Okay, I'm going to change this here to query text box. So what we can now do is register an event. We want to register an event with the run button. We're going to say if the run button is clicked, and we register that event by calling a function click on run button, and we just have to tell Gradio, we want you to call us back. If that run button is clicked, then call this callback, and that callback is going to be something called run. And spoiler alert, run is right up here. So if run button is clicked, then call that callback run. The inputs that you should use should be the contents of the query text box. So the inputs to this callback should be whatever's in the text box when they press the run button, when they click the run button. And the outputs, whatever comes out of this callback, should go into, I want you to hook that up, Gradio, hook it up into this report markdown. And then for this next one is really the same thing. It's saying that if they're in the query text box and they hit the enter key to submit, then again, call the run. The input should be the contents of the query text box and the output should be the report. So this is a way that you can hook up Gradio so that the widgets that you've constructed here get associated with inputs and outputs of a callback function that's getting called. And this method here is going to generate front-end code that's going to run in a browser. And when they press that button, it's actually going to call back this Python code in our class, populating it with the right fields. So it doesn't matter if you didn't follow all of that or you don't get or even care how Gradio hooks things up together. Just have some general intuition for it and know that UI.launch is the thing that is then going to generate the front-end code based on that and figure out how to make sure that our callback gets called. In browser equals true means that it's going to bring up a browser window right away. You don't need to have that if you don't wish. So the only remaining thing for me to mention is what then is this? What is going on with the run up here? So this is the callback that gets called. And you can see that as part of this, I am calling the research manager.run. And that is the long function that we looked at a moment ago that had lots of yields in there. And that brings me to the final part of the puzzle, which is normally in Gradio with these callbacks, you just return a result. The chat function that we've worked on in the past, that's an example of a Gradio callback. Chat just returns the result. But you can also, instead of doing that, have your callback functions be generators that Gradio needs to iterate over, and they will yield back results. And if you do that, then Gradio will show that incrementally in the user interface so that you don't have to sit there and wait for a long time and suddenly see an output. You can see interim results as well. And that is why we had a bunch of yields, and that is why we have them here in our callback. I hope that makes some sense, but it certainly will do when we actually see it. If it works, let's find out. Okay, so first of all, we bring up a new terminal, which we do by pressing the control button and hitting the tick. And when we do that, up it comes. You can also get there by going to the view menu and choosing terminal. So we need to cd into the to OpenAI directory. And now we need to change again into the deep research directory because that's where our stuff is. And you might be thinking we now type Python deepresearch.py, but that would not be right because we're working with UV. So you do UV and then run and deepresearch.py because that will make sure that we're in our correct virtual environment. And that is what we do now. And it's then going to pop up a screen like this. This is our deep research screen. This is our Gradio UI. I'll make it a tiny bit bigger. All right, what topic would you like to research? So how about this? How about we say, what are some of the most exciting commercial applications of autonomous agentic AI in as of April 2025? All right, that seems like a good question. Why not? Let's give it a whirl. Run. So first of all, we get this popping up, view the trace. If we click there, it comes up and shows us, it's just beginning. We're still at the very beginning stages. We'll hopefully in a moment see a bit more of what's going on. Not yet. It's still in the early stages. What we're seeing here is an update appearing for what's going on. And that is because we are yielding these updates. And every time that we yield those updates in our run coroutine, that gets surfaced through to our callback and through to Gradio. And that's why it's appearing here, because of those yields. That's why we did it. Otherwise, we'll be sitting here wondering what's going on. So it's already done the 20 searches because they all happened in parallel, as you know, thanks to the magic of Async.io. And now it's written the report. It's now sending the email, and hopefully any moment now it will complete, which will be nice, and we will get to see, and here it is. And we don't need to go to our email for a change because it's all appearing here in the Gradio app, and it's appearing in beautiful markdown format. It's got a nice introduction, overview of autonomous agentic AI, cybersecurity, using it for threat detection, reduce workloads, customer service, obviously, healthcare, automotive and transport, financial services, analyzing market trends and executing trades based on real-time information. Maybe we're going to be doing some of that ourselves. Logistics and supply chain. Okay, and ethical regulatory. So now it's talking about some of the sort of side effects or consequences and some conclusions and follow-up questions. So there you have it, the result of our deep research right here for us to see. Let's look at the traces and see how this is going now. This is the research trace. And sure enough, there, of course, are our agents. And at the end is our writer agent and our email agent. It successfully ran. And this is now a tool that you can use and that you can refer to and have as a deep research tool. And there's still one more thing to talk about, which is how we can now extend this and make it more powerful. Well, it was great to have seen our essential use case in action and with its own user interface. So what's next? Well, next it's over to you. The thing we want to do is make life harder for our deep research agent. We want to put it to work. So we want to really take this to the next level. It's still reasonably surface level in terms of the substantiveness of this deep research reporting. And it's something that is giving you an easy starting point to turn this into something which is a fully baked product. And here are some of the things that I am asking you to do, and give this a shot. Do your best. So first of all, we can learn a lesson from the way that OpenAI does it themselves. One of the tricks that you'll see that it does is that when you first ask for a deep research challenge, the first thing that happens is it comes back and asks for some questions. And so it would be great for us to build that. You can imagine that's very simple agent step. The first step is to come up with 3 clarifying questions associated with this query. And then make sure that you incorporate those clarifying questions in what searches are done. Take them into account. But then the hardest part of this is that you really want to turn that manager that we have from just being a Python script and a series of function calls into being something that's truly agentic. Take some hints from what we did earlier in the week when we were taking agents as tools and we were doing handoffs, and build some of that into the deep research so that it has some more autonomy to decide whether it wants to do more searches or not. You might want to put a cap on that, but you put some controls in there, but you want to try and give it some ability to go off and explore, and also potentially to refine the queries based on what it's learned so far. You could be thinking about adding in the kind of evaluator optimizer design patterns so that there's another agent that gets to check the work of the deep researcher as well. So all of these patterns that you can add, but most importantly, the overall autonomous manager, to get to a point where more work happens, more analysis takes place so that you get a more comprehensive and more compelling outcome, something which really can take several minutes and come back with something that is adding a lot of value. So that is the challenge for you. I would love to see your results. I'd love it if you could push your projects to the community contributions folder and put your work into its own folder so that people can run your deep research agent separately. Perhaps you may need to do some fiddling around with Gradio to be able to do things like surface those questions, but Gradio is great fun to work with, and it will be an awesome project. And it's also something that you can then showcase. You could, because it's a Gradio app, you can of course type Gradio deploy to deploy it to Hugging Face. And that way you can have a Spaces where it's live, you can share it on LinkedIn, and you can get others to try it out too and be able to show people about the expertise that you've acquired in building sophisticated agentic AI. And with that wraps up week 2, and I have had so much fun. You can tell I absolutely adore OpenAI Agents SDK, and I'm excited to come back to it again in week 6. But as it happens, Next week, we're working with Crew AI, and Crew AI is my second favorite. So it may not be quite as dear in my heart as OpenAI Agents SDK, but it's my second favorite. It's also really cool. It's very close to OpenAI Agents SDK. And of course, it has some different concepts, and there's some ways in which it's definitely better, as you will see. And I can't wait to show you. So see you for week 3, Crew AI week, coming right up.